what place are you going?
I am come from the city of destruction, which is the place of all sin. I am on my way to Zion.
By this I see you are mine, for of all the land from which you come, I am prince.
I am bound by vows to the King of Kings. I cannot go back with you.
I come out to stop you.
The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?
Unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
We've come to a point in our society, in the Christian world, where we're not weeping enough in these last days. We have to learn again, brothers and sisters, in the assembly, in the church of God, to weep, to mourn. That was part of the Hebrew culture, to mourn for the human condition, that God would just use these vessels for his glory. We've been so accustomed to put this front, this face, this facade, but not allow the living God who created us, who created this nose, these eyes, these ears, this mouth, that we can respect one another, not hold ourselves to positions where we become idols, where we become our own idols, but where we are actually reflecting God, and people can look and they can see hope in our eyes. They can see that there is something animating this person, and I want what this person has been imparted with. I want that. I need that. I need that genuine belief. I need to believe that person believes it to the point he's willing to give his own life. He's willing to die for this truth. God is not a thing. God is a person. He has feelings. He has feelings. He has feelings, not they. My God is not a thing. He is the living God. He is the Haya, Aya, Ashar, Aya. I am the living God. Probably someone who speaks Hebrew will correct me the way I'm pronouncing this, but what's important is the message. Why is this so important? Well, for the simple reason that 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 says that, and I'm going to read from verse 2, no 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. Which day? The day of the Lord, when God will literally appear on the Mount of Olives, as Zechariah 14 verse 4 states, and as Zechariah 12:10 states, that they will mourn, they will look on me whom they've pierced, and mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son. So in Second Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, literally, God is speaking through Paul and says that this day, the day of his appearing, as 1 John chapter 3 verse 3, and you can start from verse 3, but start from verse 1, but where literally, it is talking about the Father's love, and that Father's love has appeared to us in verse 3. Go to 1 John chapter 3 verse 3, and you understand what I'm referencing in regards to the passage that I'm sharing in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. What day? The day of the Lord, the appearing of our God, where we will visibly behold him. We will behold him with the naked eye. And this is spoken about in Job chapter 19, where Job had this desire, but I will see God with my own eyes. Okay, the eyes of the flesh. I will see him in my flesh. Except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Many Trinitarians forget that this passage is talking about Satan, the spirit of Satan, the Antichrist, the man, mimicking the greatest commandment, which we find in Deuteronomy 6:4 and explained with more detail in verse 13 to 15, of which we find in the New Testament in Mark 12, verse 28 to 30. Okay. The Antichrist is going to mimic this idea, this notion of God as the only God. Himself, showing himself that he is God. Doesn't say that they are God. Okay, doesn't say that. Saying himself. So there will be one person that will ultimately claim that I am God incarnate. I am God in the flesh. This is why Jesus said, you've rejected me because I've come in my Father's name. When he's saying my Father's name, he's saying I've come in the name of the only creator, the only originator that there is. There's only one. I've come in that name, in that authority, in that identity. That's why in John 14, verse 8 to 9, Jesus literally says to Philip, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I mean, how hard is that? How hard is that to comprehend for people that have not been imparted with the revelation of the living God? How hard is it to believe? Well, it is really hard to believe because it's a revelation, you see. The apostles, with all, like I was saying in the beginning, they were immersed. They were bathed in this understanding and the knowledge that God is one. Shema, O Israel, our God is Echad. They were immersed in this. They understood it was not talking about a Trinity. And yet, there were prophecies in the scriptures pointing that God, who is one being, could manifest himself, could appear, like in Genesis chapter 9. Genesis chapter 18. Okay. So, God literally gave these scriptures where he promised his people, one day I will appear as a son of man. But you will reject this. You will reject this because you've limited the Holy One of Israel. You've limited him. So, excuse me, brothers and sisters, this is the blueprint of what we should expect. There will be a falling away, brothers and sisters, a departing from the faith, an apostasy, a rebellion, a spiritual rebellion that will occur. And this is why I wanted to share this dream, this dream I had in April of last year. Literally, I believe personally that this is pointing to this effort, this unholy effort of the Vatican and other organizations working together, trying to make peace. But when they will say peace, peace, sudden destruction shall befall them. The Antichrist is called the son of perdition. Perdition literally means destruction, the son of destruction. That's what Jesus was warning the church. The departure from the faith. Which faith? Which faith? Departing from the Trinity doctrine? Departing from the Unitarian doctrine? Departing from Judaism? Departing from Islam? No. Departing from the Hebrew faith that were expecting a time where God would dwell with his people. That's what the name means. Jesus means the Lord saves. The Lord is Savior. He acts Emmanuel, God with us. What do you think that God was doing with the Israelites in the wilderness? With the tabernacle, the cloud appearing in the camp, the cloud in the tabernacle, in the tent, which is literally the tent of God, and the tent of God was off limits, but was within the camp, a perimeter that was sealed, and that only the priests could enter, and only the high priest could enter the Holy of Holies. What do you think that was prepping people for? It was prepping people for a time when God would literally come as a son of Adam, a son of man, where they could behold him. Wow! The Spirit of the living God that the heavens cannot hold, the earth cannot contain him, nothing can contain him, and yet he has emptied himself, all of his divinity, all of his glory, he's emptied himself in this humble and pathetic shell, which we call the flesh and blood. He's emptied himself in this form, and yet he lived a perfect life in this form of weakness. And that is so easily beset by sin. He crucified that. He destroyed that image on the cross and glorified it. That's the greatest message. That's the gospel. It's not God sending someone else to do his bidding. It's God literally himself performing what you and I could never do. It's God acting because he loves his people. And he comes as a servant. He comes disguised to test your heart, because it's too easy. It's too easy to serve an idea which we can make sense of in our finite mind. So then we don't really have an accountability towards God. God is all figured out, and yet it's a mystery. If that's not circular reasoning, pray tell me what is. Not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, where it says that the darkness comprehended it not. It did not comprehend who was God, did not comprehend that the Word who was made flesh was God, was the only God, not a triune God. And it literally says in that chapter of John that darkness did not comprehend. And we were talking about the revelation of God in Matthew 11:27, Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things that belongs to the Lord is revealed to us. So it belongs to us forever and to our seed. So it's so important that we understand that darkness does not comprehend this revelation. It's a revelation. It's not something that is easily acquired, as some of you will have you believe. It's a revelation. In John 1, it says, very, very clear here. It says, in him, okay? So in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word, that's the Word, the utterance of God. When God says, let there be light, light. It's the mind of God, the intellect, the knowledge, the wisdom of God is the Word. The same was in the beginning with God. As my speech, my voice is with me. It's not distinct from me. It's with me. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, the Hayah. God breathed in the nostrils of Adam. That word is Hayah, and he became a living soul. This is why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The life. Hayah. The Hayah was the light, the or in Hebrew, the light of men. And the or, the light, shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. It's very interesting because in French, in the French translation, darkness is a plural and light is singular, not plural. So that's just a nugget for you, brothers and sisters, that many don't understand. Darkness, les ténèbres, in French is plural. So it's saying like many are in ignorance, in darkness, but few are in the light. Few. And that light is Jesus Christ, who is God, the Father. The light is singular in French, brothers and sisters. Darkness in French is in the French language is translated plural, les ténèbres, not the darkness, it's les ténèbres. That means like Jesus when he and that's the cool thing about languages. You'll get some truths in certain languages which you will not get in others. And that can only come with discernment, spiritual discernment. God gives us the ability to comprehend certain things in certain ways, which others cannot. The darkness comprehended it not. So, it's interesting. Jesus, in the story with Legion, the man that was possessed with many devils, demons, he said, we are many. My name is Legion, for we are many. Many are in darkness. It's a plurality. The ignorance and the error of those who serve strange God, they're serving a plurality. They're not serving a singular individual, a personal God. They're serving a multi-personal God. They even say it themselves. We're serving a multi-personal God. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light. That again in French is la lumière, singular, la lumière. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. Okay. And it's very interesting because it says he was in the world, the Word, who made the world. The world was made by him, and the world knew him not. This is why he says in verse 4, the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. It cannot comprehend the light because it knew him not. The world was made by that same light, Jesus Christ, the same God, the Father, who became the Son, and the world could not perceive, could not identify the true identity of the Son, because they've divided God. They've split God into distinct persons. He came unto his own, the Hebrew people, the Israelites, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, personal, singular pronouns being used, guys, to them gave he power to become sons of God. How can he have that power to make them sons of God if he is not God, the Father himself? Even to them that believe on his name, that authority. He embodies that authority because he is that name. He is the name which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh. You see, too many rely on the will of the flesh, nor the will of man. You see, there is a will of man merged with his spirit and flesh, but it's a flawed will. The only perfect will is of God. This is what I was speaking about. You know, the Spirit of the Lord resting upon the 70 elders. It's about this indwelling of the Spirit of God, the influence of God in our lives. And we can only get this God-breathed revelation if we call upon his name. And this is what Rav Shlomo Yehuda Beery was saying in this lecture. He was the guy was asking him these questions, and he was saying everything is dark around us. This is why I mentioned John chapter 1. The darkness comprehended it not, and I was stipulating in the French language, because I'm bilingual, darkness is plural. Les ténèbres. So it's dark. The darkness is plural in the French language, and the singular aspect of this passage is talking about the light. The light is singular in the French language. La lumière, the light, which we get in English as well. But in French, there is a contrast. Les ténèbres is plural. The darkness in the French is plural, and the light is singular. So it's interesting that this man was saying, we're seeing with all what's happening, we're seeing darkness. There's only darkness. There is absolutely no light. And how can we rekindle this relationship with Hashem, with the Lord? And Yehuda Beery says it's because we've lost the notion of prayer. We've lost it. And this is why we're still in exile. I mean, much can be said also for the Christian world. You have to know the living God. Those who know the living God, and it comes through prayer, will do exploits. So you have to know your living God. You have to be able to mourn, to pray. And then comes fasting, and then comes all the works. But first, you have to believe. Faith without works is not the evidence of faith, but the evidence of faith produces works. So works without faith is neither possible. You need faith first, develop first faith with the living God, and then it will produce works. It will gender works. And the sacrifice of praise is prayer. Even David, in the Psalm says that I would bring, such beautiful prayers, these prayers from the soul, these supplications that they will be likened to a sacrifice. They would be likened, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he's saying in the Psalms, that his prayers will be like a incense. He compares his prayer to incense. King David compares his prayers to incense. And I think in Psalms 141 verse 2, it reads, let my prayer be set forth before thee as incense, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. We have lost that, and we need to rekindle that. But again, I didn't show the rest of the video because it would be too long, but he literally says that, essentially we are like conduits for God, but there is that notion also that he's like sort of saying that, the Jews are like little gods, Elohims, and that essentially we have the same power. We just need to allow God to develop that power in us. But you see, the Antichrist will come with very subtle words. There is a truth in those words. He will use truth to a certain extent to deceive the elect, if it were possible. But we have to be discerning of this.